guys, and welcome back to my channel. Excuse the TV in the background, the baby's watching TV over here. So yeah, gotta keep her occupied, right? So today I wanted to share the story of why my mom is in prison. So let's go back to when I was 14. So when I was 14, my mom, myself, my stepdad, and my little brother all moved into a new apartment. We had been evicted from where we were staying, and we had to find somewhere new, so we moved into a new apartment. At the time, the baby's being weird. At the time, my mom had also just gotten a new job. She was working as a hairdresser at Great Clips. She was working as a hairdresser at Great Clips. So during this time, when we moved into an apartment, things had gotten really, really bad between my mom and my stepdad. They were fighting and arguing a lot. Those are the same things. Anyways, things got really bad. At this point, what's wrong, baby? At this point, I had started going down a sketchy path. I started smoking weed, I started smoking cigarettes, I started rebelling. I was being a rebellious teenager that didn't want to listen to any type of authority. My mom also was having her own rebellion that I didn't quite know about at first. Give that here. So my mom, you can't have this. It's a tooth, honey. It's my stepdaughter's tooth in here. Give me 1 second. The baby wanted her tablet, so if you hear that, it's her tablet. She's watching Blippi. It's her favorite. So anyways, where was I? So my mom had started going down the wrong path as well. She had previously struggled with drugs, from what I know, but it was never super serious. She never did anything that was really bad for her. I mean, obviously drugs are bad, but she never did the harder drugs. So I believe it was probably about January. I had just started dating somebody. My mom, sorry, my thoughts. Anyways, it was about January. I had just started seeing somebody new. That comes into the story a little bit later. But, so I remember we were sitting on the couch one night and my mom asked me, do you smoke weed? And me being me, I was like, well, do you? I didn't really know what to say, but I clearly remember looking at her and saying, well, do you? And she was like, yeah, you know, sometimes. She was like, well, I'm gonna get some tomorrow and we're gonna smoke. And that was like the first time my mom and I ever did any type of drug together. I also want you guys to keep in mind, I'm not completely against marijuana. I'm a huge advocate for legalize. I'm gonna make a separate video about that, but because of marijuana, I am alive and I'm here today and I'm sober off of heroin and coke and meth and all of that, and that's all thanks to marijuana. And I'm gonna do a whole like story time video about that. So anyway, so that was the first time my mom and I ever did any type of drug together. We didn't smoke weed a lot together by any means. It wasn't really her thing. I found out later harder drugs were her thing at this point. So whatever. So about 3 weeks to a month later after that scenario, whatever, after that, we were at the pharmacy at our local grocery store picking up my mom's OxyContin. She was prescribed for her back pain. She went to a pain doctor and she was prescribed OxyContin every month. So we were there picking up her stuff, and she looked at me and she was like, you want to try a new way of getting high? And you know, I was I was 14. I was very susceptible to influences, and you know, I thought it would be cool. I honestly thought that it would make me cool, that it was a cool thing to do. And my mom was telling me, let's go do it. So, you know, being 14, of course, you're going to trust your mom. I still do think at this point I was old enough to know drugs are bad, you don't do drugs. But again, I had that influence from a parent figure, from my parent, who was pretty much telling me it's okay. So we went in the bathroom and we got high in the bathroom. From there, things really went downhill. Things between my mom and my stepdad were getting very bad, and I remember my mom telling me at one point that the only way that she could deal with it was to get high. And I think that's what initially triggered this downward spiral. As many of you know, when you're on drugs, you're not yourself. You do things that you would never dream you would do. I have many, many stories for you guys of things that I've done that people who didn't know me back then would say, no way, there's no way you did that. And I'm not making excuses for my mom, and I'm not saying what she did was right or okay by any means, but I truly believe that she was not herself, and that's why she got me into it as well. She was not herself, and she wanted a friend, and somewhere in her twisted mind at that point of being on so many drugs at the time, I think that she truly believed that there was no harm in it. And you know, probably gonna get a lot of negative feedback on that. You know, she's still your mother, she shouldn't have done that, you should know better. But from someone who has experience with drugs, I can just say that drugs make people do crazy things. I would never, ever even think about introducing my daughter to the world of drugs. But I also know what it leads to, and I don't think my mom at the time actually had a clear understanding of what it can lead to. I think at that point all she really had was, you know, school books saying this is what happens when you do drugs. She had never had that first-hand experience of this is what happens. She had never really been around anyone who did drugs. Her parents never did drugs. Her parents were great parents. My grandparents are amazing. So I think that because she didn't have that clear understanding of how dire the situation can be when you do get into drugs, I think that was a huge factor in her not thinking clearly, on top of her judgment already being clouded because of the drugs, if that makes any sense. So we started doing Oxycontin and things spiraled downhill. I got very, very bad with Oxycontin. So did my mom, and eventually they ran out, which happens. So at this point, my mom was a hairdresser at Great Clips, and she had met somebody there who became her best friend at the time. And her friend had introduced my mom to heroin. I'm not exactly sure how it all came about. All I know is that she was the one who got my mom started into heroin, which I believe my mom probably would have gotten started into anyways once the pills ran out and she needed something, you know, to escape the mental pain and the physical pain that she was in. So for a long time, my mom would not let me do heroin. At this point, I didn't really know what it was. All I knew was that it's like a painkiller, that it's like, you know, the Oxycontin, but I knew that it was really bad. My mom knew that it was really bad at this point, and she didn't want me doing it. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, nope, I'm good, I'm gonna stick to weed, you know, some cocaine here and there, I'll be good. But there was one specific time, we just got back from the city. At this point, I had already dropped out of high school. I was 15. I dropped out of high school with my mom's permission, which later I did go back to school. So we'll get to that. So I wasn't in school, and I was going down on daily trips to Philadelphia with my mom at this point. So we got back from Philadelphia on a drug run, and we were sitting at the kitchen table. My mom was cutting out her lines. At this point, she was only snorting it. whatever. So she cut out the lines, her friend cut out her lines, and then I'm not really sure whose idea it was in the beginning. Things about this are still really foggy. I think that I don't want to remember it, but something happened. We're sitting at the table and I was offered a line of heroin. I did the line of heroin and I fell in love. I fell in love with it. Now at this point I had brought this heroin to my boyfriend at the time, and it would be my mom, my boyfriend, and I, and her friend were doing heroin on the daily, taking trips down to Philadelphia, doing heroin. It went from snorting it to now we were shooting it up. At that point, I did not know how to shoot myself up with heroin. I had no freaking clue what to do. I had no idea. So my mom was doing it for me, or my boyfriend at the time was doing it for me. I never shot myself up at this point. A couple years later, after a couple years after my mom had gone to jail, I'd been clean for like 2 years, and I got back into it. I learned how to do it myself pretty quick. But at this point, I did not know how to do it. So it was my mom that was shooting me up, and I was 15 years old. So we went through the whole summer. A lot of stuff happened. I think I'm going to make different things in story times because there's a lot of stuff that happened during this time. Like a crazy amount of stuff, crazy stuff that happened. And I was only 15, so this was like insane. So I want to say probably about August, Child Services got called. Now we went from about January to August. So in August, Child Services did get called on my mom. I think it was one of my friend's moms who actually called because they were worried about me. And Child Services had gotten involved, but we played it off. We faked the drug test. We got out of it, we thought. In September, I was court ordered to go back to school because before I had dropped out, I had gotten a truancy, and it was either pay the $48,000 in fines or I go back to school. And obviously we did not have that money, so I went back to school. This was about October. I had my first day back at school, and I remember a friend had told the guidance counselors that I was using and that things were going very badly for me at home and just in general. And I got called down to the office. I met with one of the guidance counselors. I tried to say, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm fine. I'm okay. Like, can I just go back to class? Whatever. And they sent me to the nurse's office for a checkup to see if I was healthy, I guess is kind of how they played it off. And when the nurse took off my long sleeves to take my blood pressure, she saw all the track marks, which then she alerted the security at the school. She alerted the police, and she alerted my social worker. Well, first security came in, they searched my backpack, my locker, they searched me, and they did find some stuff, excuse the baby shark, but they did find stuff on me which led to juvenile charges, which are now expunged. I have no record, I have no charges, which I'm very grateful and very lucky for. She doesn't want. So security searched me. At this point, the police had come in, police had searched me, police had my phone, and at this point I deleted everything, but the one thing I did not delete was Facebook messages between my boyfriend and I at the time. I did not delete them because I didn't want to delete any of the, cute messages from him at the time, so I did not delete any of them. And that is what actually made everything come about. So once the police were there, sweatshirts like made me look pretty fat. I promise it's not a fat roll, it's just my sweatshirt. So the police were there, security was there, and then my social worker came in and she drug tested me. I came up positive for I think cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. And at that point I was being put under arrest. And I was getting sent to rehab. I went into rehab voluntarily, but if I didn't, it would have been a court order for me to go to rehab. So at this point, I get into rehab, and while I'm in rehab, during the first couple of days, my mom... Alright, sorry guys, I got a phone call. So anyways, I'm pretty sure that's part where I was being arrested and taken to rehab. So anyway, so during the first couple of days I was in rehab, I was only in rehab for 10 days because I got kicked out. But within the first couple of days is when everything kind of got found out. At this point, the police had a warrant to search my phone. They searched my phone. They found out that, you know, everything that was going on, that I was going to Philly to get heroin with my mom, and that she was shooting me up and all of that stuff. So at this point, everything came out within the time that I got kicked out of rehab, which I'll do a whole story time on that as well. She had lost custody of me. My grandparents got custody of me. I went home with them. I started living with them, and about, I want to say like about 3 weeks after I moved in with my grandparents, and you know, I got out of rehab and everything, my mom was arrested. My mom was arrested on national TV. National news, my mom was arrested. Her story made headlines in London. There's a news article from the London Times about a mom who shot her 15-year-old daughter and her daughter's 16-year-old boyfriend up with heroin. And that was really hard for me. I couldn't go back to my normal high school. I mean, if I wouldn't have been expelled anyways, I couldn't go back there. Even the high school that I ended up going to, it was an alternative school. It was an all-girls school. Even that, I faced so much bullying and so many hateful things by people for what my mom did. And I'm not saying, this is where people don't agree with me, because I truly believe that everything was my choice. Yes, I had my mom's influence, and yes, I believed what she would say to me, but at the end of the day, it was always my choice to do it. Nobody forced me. Nobody was forcing me. My mom would tell me at any time I could stop. My mom wanted me to stop, but we were both so addicted that we couldn't. And I just want to make that clear that I personally believe that I made the choice every time I put that drug into my body. I chose to do it. I became so addicted that that was the only choice that I knew how to make. So, my mom was arrested on national news. I remember, so at this point I was out of rehab, but I was in a partial hospitalization program for mental health. But the kids there, it was like, just for like teenagers. The teenagers also had like some type of addiction problem, whether that addiction was, you know, like self-harm, or the addiction was, you know, drugs or alcohol or whatever. So I was there, and then morning after my mom got arrested, I remember the psychiatrist taking me aside and showing me a newspaper article of my mom. It was a picture of her being arrested, and then it was the article about what, you know, everything that happened. And he's like, "Is that your mom?" And I was like, "Yeah," you know. So that was hard. So bottom line, my mom got me started on heroin. She injected me with heroin. She got charged with multiple counts of child endangerment, possession, intent to deliver, conspiracy. She got charged. She had 11 felony counts against her. They knocked it down to like, I think maybe like between 3 or 5 felonies, and my mom got 5 to 10 years in prison. She has served about 4 years in prison. She's up for parole next year, or she's up for parole like December 2020. And if she does get parole, then she will be out on parole for 5 years. If she does not get parole, she is in prison for another 5, and then she gets out. And I'm not sure how it's gonna work, if she's gonna be on parole or whatnot, but that's what it is. I gotta get ready and get these kids to dinner. We're meeting my boyfriend, who's amazing, for dinner, and that's it for this video, guys. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. I feel like I definitely let you guys in on my personal life now. You guys know that I am a recovering addict. I do have 2.5 years clean today, so I'm doing pretty well for myself, and I'm gonna do a whole story time about, you know, how I got clean and everything. And I know that I'm probably gonna get some negative feedback. I hope it's all positive, but let's be realistic, it's probably gonna be a lot of negative crap. This is who I am. I'm not ashamed. Life happens. I'm making the best of it, and that's what it is. But for anyone questioning, yes, I am the girl. I'm the girl whose mom shot her up with heroin, who's in prison now. So anyways, for more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.